Welcome to the roundtable. A roundtable organized by Slovenian Association for the Study of Religions, Faculty of Social Sciences, University of Ljubljana also, and most of all our kind and nice hosts here, Scientific Research Center in Koper. But this is the whole event, the whole symposium we started already yesterday is organized on behalf of European Association for the Study of Religions and its working group on religion in public education. So we are scholars of religion and we teach our students and we try to be non-normative in so many different ways. But this working group is not non-normative in some ways. It is not non-normative in that way that we share the view that that public education should include also education about religion. We share the views that all children should be taught about religion together, no matter their cultural, religious, and other backgrounds. What else do we share? That it should be, of course, it should be taught. Most importantly, on the basis of the scientific discipline, which is researching religion, like mathematics is taught on the basis of scientific discipline, right? Or history, the same religious education, or maybe better, religion education should be based on study of religions as a discipline. The topic of the whole symposium we've been having since yesterday is religious literacy. Religious literacy is a contested concept with its history and some dilemmas within it, not that well publicly known in this part of Europe where we are sitting now. It's more common in northern parts of Europe, right? That's also maybe why it is more contested there. There are more critical views towards it. But here, at the very first thought, it seems like a good concept which might be valuable also in public education about religion. So this is also the main topic of this roundtable we're having now. And it is my pleasure and honor to introduce really the distinguished guest we have. I start with Wanda Alberts. They're all professors, you can imagine, experts in study of religion, and they all researched and published extensively about religion education. Wanda Alberts, professor at Leibniz University in Hanover. Jenny Berglund, Stockholm University, Germany, Sweden. Jenny is also Secretary General of the European Association for the Study of Religions. And then we have Tim Jensen, Professor at South Danish University in Odense, and some other affiliations with other universities, and the President of the International Association for the History of Religions. So it is really a pleasure and honor to be part of such discussion. Thank you all for coming. I will not. What else do we have to say? Not much. I don't want to use valuable time. I suggest that we start the discussion, that each of you just start about your experiences with the concept of religious literacy and how useful it is, and where might be some disadvantages as well in your experience, in your views. So we just start like this, and then we'll see where the tracks, where the discussion goes. Right? We'll open it very soon to the podium as well. So all of you are most welcome to think about it and then to include with your questions, remarks, ideas, comments. Have I forgotten anything? I think we can start, right? Wanda, would you just go like this?
Yeah. Yes. So thank you for the invitation to this, and I look forward to the discussion. We already heard yesterday that religious literacy is, in a way, an empty signifier, so it depends on how we fill it. And we also already heard, and I think this is very important, that if we try to fill it from the perspective of the study of religion, we might want to think about the term itself, and then maybe not calling it religious literacy, but religion literacy. So analogous to talking about religious education, which is ambiguous. It might be a religious perspective, but it's universally used. And religion education, education about religion. So I think to use this term, maybe one thing that is interesting in the study is in relation to follow that term. Tim, you mentioned yesterday this MTSR, Method and Theory in the Study of Religion, journal, special issue on the topic, and the article by Wolfert, who said it's ex-theological. Yeah, so it carries some theological balance. It tries to free itself from this theological balance, but it still has it in it, and we can discuss in how far this is the case in different concepts of religious literacy. And he refers to Diane Moore and to Stephen Portaro and their concepts about religious literacy. We've had some criticism in the same issue by David Robertson, criticizing it with a criticism of the word religious paradigm and so on, and asking, do we really want to reproduce this kind of knowledge about religions, knowledge about word religions and so on? So we have this topic also in the presentation today. Word religion and literacy, I thought that was quite interesting to hear that. So I think it's important for us in the study of religion to see if it's going to be used, how we want to fill it, and what we want to demarcate it from. And then I really think that, just as we are always kind of arguing about words, it's quite nice to draw attention to the change that it makes to talk about religion literacy. So questioning the concept of religion, and also maybe showing that it's more, or it can be filled with more than education about religions in the plural, which is maybe very often interpreted in terms of the word religious paradigm again. So it's maybe an invitation to start with a reflection about the concept of religion, and to discuss how the concept of religion is being used in societies. And I think if it's used in this way, it's very relevant to pupils in school and also to the university, to kind of make this a subject matter of discussion.
Great, thank you. Just one maybe addition. It might not be so self-evident to everybody in this room where might the problem with the expression world religions be. You know, world religion paradigm is something we in study of religions are very familiar with, but not everybody here is. So maybe just one minute about this.
Yes, yeah.
To start a discussion,
yeah.
You know, with the...
that is important, because that's also an interesting observation. It's so obvious to us as scholars of religion who have discussed that for a long time, but it's for many people, if we talk about non-confessional religious education, the idea is, oh yes, then it's about all the other religions, or it's about world religions. And it's quite interesting, those two ideas. So we have the other religions, so this implies some kind of othering. So having one religion that is maybe given as something that you might have confessional religious education about, and then there are the others. But also if you try to make it more neutral in some sense, that you say, no, we are not talking about one religion and other, not Christianity and others, but we are talking about the major world religions or whatever, then you still have this model of religion that lies behind the concept world religion. And that's quite interesting, because also we ourselves in the study of religion for a long time, we didn't really think so much about it. So, and we contributed to producing this paradigm, and it's called paradigm because it's kind of intuitively what you think of. If you think of religion, you think of the world religions of Islam, Christianity, and so on. So this makes it a paradigm that it seems given, as if it had fallen from the sky. And then it's quite interesting to look at when did it emerge, how did it emerge, what kind of concept, in which time did it emerge. So it has this Christian Protestant model of religion behind it. It has some colonial baggage, it has some Eurocentric perspective in it. So all this comes with this paradigm. So as many very clever scholars in the study of religion have shown, it kind of appears to be a neutral or a pluralistic concept, but at the same time it isn't, because the standards by which it represents the diversity of religion is modeled after particular religions. And this is something that we are challenging in the study of religion, and it's not that easy to communicate. I really have to admit, to say, because some people say, oh, we've come so far that the education is about different world religions, isn't that enough? And then we say, no, there is a problem with that.
We are never satisfied.
No, we're never, yes, yeah. But I think it's really important to communicate this, and then we arrive at really interesting discussions, because also many people say, just producing knowledge about the different religions, isn't that boring to children? Isn't that something, telling some old stories and so on? And if we really look at these construction processes and what they do in our societies, in politics, in law, then I think it gets really, really interesting.
Thank you, Jen.
Okay, thank you. I will pick up a bit on what Wanda says. I think religious literacy can definitely be a valuable concept. I would thus prefer religion literacy, actually, but that is also coming from a school system in Sweden where we have religion education as an obligatory school system, a school subject, and we've had that for 60 years. And it has to be based on the study of religions and the academic study of religions. Of course, we've had through history a lot of discussions on this, but I think if we fill religion education or religion literacy with the academic study of religions, it can be something very valuable for pupils. And I think that having some knowledge about religions, to understand religion in society and literature or in art, is something that can be valuable for pupils. I mean, of course, you can live a good life without knowing that this apple has, where it comes from, so to speak. You can live a good life without looking at paintings and understanding them, but having scientifically based academic study of religions, that is something good for pupils in many ways. I think also coming from a country that is known as one of the most secular countries in the world, but on the same time one of the most multi-religious countries in Europe. It's also, I teach in teacher education, so I teach the study of religions for those who are becoming teachers. They will meet students from diverse religious backgrounds. I think it's quite good to have an academic, scientifically based knowledge about religions when you meet this diversity of pupils. And then something that we discuss quite a lot right now is that young people and pupils, they do meet religion in social media every day. And they would meet religion on TikTok for 15 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever. And how do they deal with that? I think both parents and teachers and so on prefer that they have academic grounded knowledge, critical, to meet what they meet. Because I mean, they meet the most hideous things. We don't really know how, or we do have research on how some children handle it. But I think it's then, having religious or religion literacy coming from the school is a very good thing in terms of fostering critical thinking to social media and so on. So I think that's basically the aims and the goals that we discuss. Of course, there are challenges all the time. It's a small school subject. It has to do with the teacher education, how much for the lower grades, those who are becoming teachers of primary school, they get very little study of religions, I should say, which is not enough from my perspective. No surprise that I say that. But those who are teaching in secondary school, in upper secondary school, they would get quite a lot in that, so they could meet these challenges. And of course, they work together with historians and social scientists and so on. But yeah, so if we fill it with the academic study, I think it can be a valuable term to discuss what pupils need in society when meeting, because we have religion all over society, so they need to handle it in some way.
And they're citizens. Or
Yeah, they're citizens, yeah.
Children do grow and then they become
Yeah.
members of the public, and then they have public posts, and then they can't perform well if they don't understand this important part of human culture, isn't it? It's important to emphasize at the beginning of this debate, I think, that of course we come from different cultural backgrounds, from different societies, and our colleagues from Northern Europe are speaking, Jenny, and our team will start from a totally different environment. They come as we hear, you know, and then it's critical because the children in young children, they don't get enough about religious education in Slovenia. Young and older children don't get anything out of it because we don't teach about religion, as in France, right? In other parts of former Yugoslavia and most other Eastern European countries, mostly the only way of teaching religion is confessional religious education in schools and so on. So it's that's also why it's so valuable to have these discussions, to exchange our experiences and knowledge, because there is a model in Scandinavia, and we called it Scandinavian model in the book in Slovenian, which was published on Religion in School in 2021, as a role model of how it could be quite productively done, right? So I think this to observe these different contexts is very valuable for people from here, from this country. But sorry to be so long. Tim, please, what do you think?
Thank you for the invitation. I don't really know what to think. That's a privilege of getting old. You can admit that. But I do believe that in certain places it has some advantages to talk to politicians and educationalists in terms of religious literacy or religion literacy. I don't know if they will understand the difference between religion literacy or religious literacy. And I agree with Watford, it's sort of very refined. I wrote together with Kana Kilson an article for some, I think it was Swedish or Norwegian anthology or something, an article in 2019, I can't remember, called Religious Literacy in Denmark. What is that, if anything? And we realized from the beginning that there was never any talk in Denmark about that. Neither elementary school, nor second primary, whatever, never, gymnasium, never. Except in a sort of alternative proposal to counter the small c confessional religious education in school. Those people, they tried to use it probably for political strategic reasons. But still we found one example of a school subject that fit all the normal, general, international criteria for what constituted religious literacy. And that was the Danish upper secondary religion education, which has been non-confessional since 1916. And it has gradually evolved into what I would call a mini study of religions school subject, explicitly based on the academic study of religions. Now, I have traveled around the world, also to Ljubljana, sitting with the former Minister of Education, and Alice pushed me in front of him to say, tell them about all the blessings of public religion education from a study of religion's point of view. And I tried my best, and I countered very, very good arguments against it. But the best argument against it was over dinner, when the minister said to me, right now Slovenia has much more use for more lectures on something that has to do with agriculture. This is what we need, more agriculture, right? More knowledge about how to do that. I understood that argument perfectly. Still, I traveled ahead because it has been sort of my mission. Now, next week, I'm invited to go to Luxembourg, and I will talk at what they call an executive lunch. And here Alice told me I had 5 minutes. There I have all in all 20 minutes to talk to some business people, whatever it is, about the blessings of what I have toured and the title is Why a Study of Religions-Based RE ought be a must in public schools in the European Union, including Slovenia and Everywhere. I think it ought to. I have written in Newman about this, I have written now also in a journal that you edited here, and I will just read my programmatic statement in this regard. There is not one word about religious papers, but it has to do with it, I think. 1. If scientifically founded knowledge in general is considered of cultural and political value, then scientifically founded knowledge of and approaches to religions must also be considered valuable. Why? 2. Because religion and religions are important human, cultural, social, and historical phenomena to be analyzed, understood, and explained in line with other human, social, historical, and cultural phenomena. 3. If this is the case, then such knowledge must be produced and furthered by scholars at relevant university departments, I think, in contrast to other colleagues, best at departments for the study of religions. And 4, it must, however, also be shared with the public at large and not kept as a professional secret among scholars within the academia. 5. For a state to make sure that knowledge about religions produced at state-funded universities are shared with the public at large, the state must make use of its public schools and institute a normal study of religions-based RE as a compulsory and totally normal school subject. 6. The RE thus offered can help provide citizens at large, as well as professional and civil servants, with a general education, Allgemeinbildung, as well as knowledge useful for qualified execution of particular professions. Now the discussion, of course, is what do we put into this study of religions program at the universities? How do we educate teachers for that? And there, I think, around the world, and even in this room, we can have some disagreement. My model is still the Danish upper secondary school curriculum. Because I think that it's not just about teaching about religions out there, it's also teaching about the study of religions approaches to everything, religion in general, religions, world religions. And normally when I'm exemplifying the value of this to people, I take my starting point in human rights articles and start to show them what a scholar of religion can get out of reading, analyzing the semantics of terms like religion, belief, conscience, all of this. The whole idea that religion starts within an individual and then is expressed later in group or individually is not something that a scholar of religion will share. It will start another place. So you can use various examples to sort of deconstruct the notion of religion, common sense notions of religion. And we have to do that also. But we also have to deal with some religious facts. And Wanda knows, because Wanda was there, and Alice also, when I had my retirement small symposium, where I sort of tried to see what makes a scholar of religion. That I still am in favor of a public school curriculum that introduces the students to the major religious traditions of the world. And I think that politically speaking, this is necessary. But I agree with all the problems inherent in the so-called world religions paradigm. Thank you.
Thank you. It was not agriculture, as former ministry was mentioning, but it was environment. Not a big difference, it's slightly different. He was also mentioning computer sciences and things like that, because children have to learn so many things, and of course it's difficult to squeeze religion in. It was not just one minister, but it was former Minister Gaber, who was for a long time minister, and he had a large influence on Slovenian school. So yeah, this is what we hear often, right? It's your arguments are so good, but the curricula are full. What we in basically the European Association for the Study of Religion more or less agree on is that we should the study of religion should be neutral, critical, and should be non-confessional. And this is what should be also the basis about teaching about religion for kids, right? But we do not always, again, we take this for granted, you know, what does non-confessional mean? And it might be that in different cultures it might mean some slightly different things. And we had a very short discussion with a colleague from Faculty of Theology during one of the breaks just today, right? About this, you know, he was asking me, but Arish, why do you say that there are forces in Slovenia who want a confessional subject on religion into schools? Because the church is not advocating, the Slovenian Roman Catholic Church is not advocating for confessional subject in a narrow meaning of the word, right? But it is this kind of subject that it is church repeatedly again and again advocated. It is something that huge majority of members of our working group, but also European Association, would see as confessional, as a non-neutral, as apologetic in a way, as a perspective which is dominantly from one religion, right? So it's, yeah, these tiny little differences in words and so on, like it's religious or religion, what does it mean to be confessional? That's why world religion paradigm, it sounds so scholastic, isn't it? I mean, so we are using time, you know, and it's just a lot of unimportant things, but at the end, all these things are what makes the difference in culture and society and so on. But I wanted to open this, maybe to discuss now also about this, you know, what do we mean when we say confessional, non-confessional, and so on and so on. But Wanda, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to, because Tim, you used this term in what you read out, scientifically founded knowledge. So I think this is quite nice, actually, and some people use the term unlearning religion, because it's kind of a characteristic of religion that it's not something that you normally produce scientifically founded knowledge about. So for most of the people, so the concepts of religion that we have and that people have, they are kind of acquired in different ways. So as we've also said before at this symposium, religion is not a normal subject matter. It's not being negotiated or being taught by the standards or by means as other things. So I think this is quite interesting, and we even had this idea that in some contexts, and maybe also here, it's a taboo topic. Yeah, it's something that you don't want to talk about because it's so controversial, you have so different opinions about it. And then you could argue, if you want to fill the term religion literacy in a religious studies way, that you learn how to look at this concept in a critical way, in a way that is founded, that it's scientifically founded knowledge about religion. But then again, we can start already, and we've had this today. So is theology not scientifically founded knowledge? And who discusses about this, and who negotiates that, and what do politicians think about this? So then we're in the middle of the discussion.
Yeah, no, something that we often discuss, of course, with the students and so on, with the study of religions, is what we call, you know, the methodology of agnosticism, kind of taking a step back and looking at religious traditions and so on from the same point of view, independently of what religion it is. And I think also teaching this for teacher students is that they get kind of a way of also not only in their own teaching about religion, as we have in Sweden, but also in general, that you know, meeting, because they will do that, religion in a way that is as neutral and objective as possible. So we kind of give them a way of doing that, a method of doing that, a scholarly method in that respect. And I think that's useful actually not only for those who are teaching religion education as in Sweden, it's also useful for other teachers as well. I mean, I have some courses where teachers who teach physical education take a study of religions course because they are meeting students who come from different religious backgrounds, and they will ask questions and say things, and so they need a bit of this study of religions. That's like an extra courses that we could give.
I really would like you, if you're interested in this, to go to this journal. I think it's called Deception, right? That was volume 9, number 4. 2019, edited entirely by us. Several of us published in there. And I actually think, I have to be very honest, I normally am, I think my article is pretty good. and I think it ought to be seminal. It's very programmatic, it's sort of the summary of 35 years of work on this, and I'm so tired of repeating myself, but this time I've written it in a programmatic, short way. And if you dwell on what I write, I think it is a good argument and it should be persuasive. But it is not, because politicians and the public, they do not necessarily want to support scientific approaches to anything. I just read up from something from the United States that he and others, they don't want professors. They want to get rid of professors. They want to get rid of university knowledge. It's the same in Denmark. Politicians don't want to know what scholars of religion and Islam have to say about Islam and the oppression of Muslim women in terms of facts. And they don't want to listen to us. So maybe my argument doesn't work in that regard, but it should work in academic sort of environments. And I really think that European countries must sort of be aware of both their religious heritage, but also their Enlightenment heritage. And I think that it was also part of what you said. There is some no-goes, and that is discerning from the methodological neutrality or methodological naturalist approach, and the link between that, Enlightenment, and democracy, human rights, etc. So when I travel around the world, when I'm president, secretary general, trying to promote the academic study of religion, I do never try to conceal that I have a political, extra scientific agenda. Namely, I think scientific studies are valuable. I think that they are valuable to open democratic societies. And without that, forget about open democratic societies. That's why we need to have universities, we need to produce knowledge. And then my question is, why on earth should we not need and not produce scientifically based knowledge on what is called religion? It's a human, natural, social phenomenon of importance in the past and today. In public discourses everywhere. Nobody will deny that. So why not also produce that? Why not disseminate it through those schools that all citizens pay to, through those universities that we all pay to via the taxes? This is my simple argument. But of course it's not that popular everywhere. But I think it should be logical enough for a lot of people to buy into it. And that's why I hesitate using the religious literacy thing. I would much rather sort of insist on this scientific, the necessity of having scientifically based knowledge in a democratic, open society, also about religion.
But as far as I understand the concept of religious literacy, it is an essential part of it. This is how I understand it. I know that not everybody understands it the same way, but I would advocate it in this direction, right? Tim was quoting the ZRS, the Center for Education Politics, something like that. Pedagogical faculty in Ljubljana is issuing this journal. It was 2019, I think, it just before the COVID. I mean, we prepared a very good, I think, number, but then all the activities we had in mind, the promotion and everything, all the discussions we already started to organize, were just closed down because of COVID, unfortunately. But I think it's a special issue on religion and public education, and I also agree with him. It's not only his article, which is excellent, but there are also other very good articles in it. So I share Tim's invitation. To read it. Any more reactions should be open to the podium. I'm sure there are other thoughts and questions within the public. Or Patrick, go on.
Thank you for what has been said.
We are just filming this, recording this. It's not been transmitted, but we're recording this for the archives and so on. That's why we.
So again, thank you for what has been said. I think that religious literacy is a good concept to talk to politicians, because it sounds good. We also talk about financial literacy, economical literacy, scientific literacy, cultural literacy, and I think religious literacy is part of cultural literacy. So that's fine to convince also some politicians. And then we can think about how can we obtain religious literacy in schools. And I think there are many academic disciplines that can help to improve religious literacy, language, history, art, also the study of law and sociology, anthropology, and also religious studies, but I think also theology. If it is good theology, I think theology can improve religious literacy. But then we can take another step and ask ourselves, how can we do it in the best way? And then I think that we should do it on the basis of an academic discipline, and then religious studies is, I think, the most objective discipline. But also, there's another argument, is that when we organize, like in Belgium, confessional religious education, we have to put all the students in different classrooms. The Muslims with the Muslims, the free thinkers with the free thinkers, the two Protestants with their teacher, and so on. And I think this is not the best way to enhance or increase the religious literacy, because we always learn from each other, but also, and that's my experience, when you put people together with the same religion, it's very attractive to make a caricature of the other. When you are together in one classroom, and I also feel the experience when I'm at university, when I'm teaching, and I know that there are Protestants and Muslims, I'm much more nuanced about what I'm saying about religion. So I think there is also an argument here for integrative religious education to improve, to have more balanced views about what is religion. So not only it's religious studies based, but also we put students together with different backgrounds. It helps to improve a more nuanced view of what is religion and what we can mean for different peoples, citizens, and cultures.
Thank you. This is just another convincing argument for integrative science of religious-based religious education. There are more, of course. I mean, one very important, at least for me, is that if we separate students according to their religious belongings or whatever, we just reproduce this separation thing. Shouldn't the public school do just the opposite? Teach and educate kids how to be together in our differences. So I think there are many good reasons for this. I don't know, but you disagree, do you?
No, I have also a small empirical argument from the Belgian situation. I must say we have confessional religious education. All the students have religious education. Almost all students in Belgium. But the level of religious literacy is incredible low. Incredible. I have students in my university, they have 12 years, 2 hours a week Catholic religious education, and if I ask what is Easter, they don't know what it is. So I think, and it has to do with the society has changed, the students are secular, the course is a confessional course, and the teacher is a little bit shy to speak about the Bible and religion and God. And so he's talking about identity and sexuality and racism and drugs and things like that, but not about religion anymore. So I think that's my experience. If you start from religious literacy and the idea that religion, knowledge about religion is important, then we can read the Bible. It's no problem. You can convince students, also secular students, to read the Bible. But I have the impression that as long as we do it in a confessional, but the typical Belgian situation, as long as we do it in a confessional way, we miss the real tools to enhance the religious literacy.
Yeah, you asked us a while ago to say something about what we mean about confessional.
Yes.
You said theology.
Because there
Now,
are
to me, theology is, of course, not sort of the significant other. I mean, it has been, etc. but lots of theologians are doing excellent scientific work. It would be ridiculous to disagree. Some of them don't, especially the most systematic, but still they do a lot of good work. The SBL, the Society of Biblical Literature, you have lots of people there studying the Bible and the Quran and other. They are excellent scholars, talk about philology, etc. Excellent. So that's not a problem per se. The problem is that most theologians do not have the training that scholars of religion have. That's why we cannot have religion education teachers be educated at theology departments, because theologians, by definition, so to speak, don't have the comparative generalist perspective that a scholar of religion ought to have. A scholar of religion ought to be able to get up at 3 o'clock in the night and answer questions about Taoism and Theravada Buddhism and indigenous religions in Malaysia or indigenous religions pre-Columbian, etc. You need to have the generalist knowledge before you can start to talk about religion also as sort of a universal whatever kind of thing. You need it. If you don't have the comparative perspective, forget about it. And that is a sine qua non also for what I would call religious literacy. You need to know about different religions. You need to know about the key terms of the study of religions. You need to be able to deconstruct unique theories about religion. And theologians do not have the same kind of stuff that we have in the study of religion. That's very simple. It's not because they are not scientific. It's just another kind of science. And confessional, yes, I mean, Wanda knows this. In Germany, of course, the confessional religionsunterricht has had to sort of, also due to pluralism and multiculturalism, sort of also include teaching about other religions. It's so the various confessions, whether it's Christians or other, they have to include that. But still, it's evident from the analysis I conducted several years ago for the project that you were part of, or that they do it from out their own confessional perspective. So, and we don't do that in the study of religion. We try at least not to. Very hard, and we are very aware of our Protestant, whatever, Eurocentric, epistemological prejudice.
I think it's necessary to emphasize that we are very critical towards the confessional approaches to religious education, that there is practical anonymity, that it's everybody within the working group agrees without a shadow of a doubt that, of course, the confessional religious education is a valuable thing in a society, but not as a part of public school. That this is something that religious communities can and should do, and so on and so on, right? So this is, I think, one of the things. I don't know anybody who would say, we should abandon confessional religious education. It's just the question whether it is good to be part of public school and to teach it to kids in different ways, right? But there must be other opinions or questions or disagreements in the audience or not. Giovanni, please.
Thank you for all this kind of discussion, and I will take the occasion for raising an objection to the term religious literacy, because in my humble opinion and really contextual, my point is, since as we have also talked before, literacy came from the literacy of learning a language, it is a tool, something that you cannot but use and must also make your own. When it comes to religion, it has something in contrast with the methodological agnosticism and to the fact that nowadays in our society is not that you must take religion as something on your own. You have to navigate it, you have to be oriented in a world which has a lot of religions in it, but should you make it your own things, just like a language, you cannot but use a language. Finance, you must be financial aware because you have to earn money. Media technology, you must use technology, but the point is, do you have to use religion? I don't know. And this could be, maybe it's quite a sophisticated argument, but using literacy may also mean and give the justification for a small C confession religious education that you must have some kind of sensibility to religions. And that's the argument that I met from a lot of persons, religious, not religious, or maybe unconsciously religious actors. So instead of religious literacy, that has, for me, we just mentioned it earlier, yes, it is an open signifier. Instead of religious literacy, I'd like to use the concept from didactics, the Italian tradition of didactics. It is disciplinary knowledge. And your tools is not religions, your tools are the disciplines, which is the study of religion, which is the theory, the concept, the language, the terms, the methodology. And so I would like to say not religious or religion literacy, but study of religion literacy, but then we can also leave the literacy terms aside and just use subject didactics.
Yeah. Now, I think, of course, disciplinary knowledge is a very good term to use about this type of knowledge for the study of religions. But then I think the general public might not know what disciplinary knowledge of the study of religion is. And then then it's maybe easier to use religious or religion literacy because it connotates to something. And yes, it's a difference between a language, but there are, there's a knowledge there somewhere. So I think maybe the intuitive argument is there anyhow, and it's also easier in relation to young people or pupils to explain it, because I think disciplinary knowledge, yes, sure. I would also, if you use didactics, that's also difficult in different languages, because it connotates to different things in English. If you use it in Swedish, it could be quite okay, but I think in some ways it also connotates to instruction didactics, which can be difficult. So maybe then education is wider. So it's a matter of language. I think religious or religion literacy has something, at least when we communicate widely with it. I think in terms of between people within the study of religions, disciplinary knowledge would be okay, but I'm not so sure that everyone knows what it is.
Yes, so thank you for this contribution. I think it's really, I can't say anything against it, because it's very convincing. And I really think, so this is one of the problems of the term religious literacy, and the other problem with this empty or open signifier is also that it becomes so fuzzy because people fill it with so many different things that we don't know what to talk about. And that's the same with religious education. This is why we invent these things like religion education, religion literacy. So it's already a sign that we haven't invented this term, but we try to adjust it. And maybe it's also something that we have to just in our different languages look at how it's being used. So if I speak for the German context, we have the term Religionsunterricht, religious education maybe. So this is something that is a general term and that is normally used for the confessional model. And then we have something called Religionskunde, maybe something like knowledge about religion or education about religion. And then this is something that also people who are representatives of the other model, of the confessional model, that they say this is the other. So we have these two it's acknowledged as something different. And this may be different in other countries. But then as soon as we come together, and this is also something we heard yesterday, and talk about or what you said, what was it, international knowledge transfer
Yeah.
and so on, so we have to agree on terms. But my experience is, and I think this is the big problem with this whole issue, it becomes so fuzzy that everybody can fill it in some way. So we have religious education, we talk about it as if we meant the same, but we mean very different things. I think this really is a problem. And my solution to that would be just in any context to explain what I mean by it, and then make this explicit and be explicit about it and be clear about it in my terms. But of course it doesn't solve the problem.
I also agree that it is a problem if it is like learning to speak a language that is sort of religious, right? Or learn to speak the language of the religious. That's not what we're doing, of course. And when Kana and I wrote that article that I mentioned before, we referred to the definitions given by, I think it was Marcus and Ralph, where they have 4, but I only read the 3 of them. And that's sort of what we're talking about in disciplinary knowledge, right? Factual knowledge about key terms used to talk about religious traditions and the academic study of religion. That's the first thing we want to convey to students when we are aiming at religious literacy. 2, conceptual knowledge about the theories and premises of religious studies, study of religions. And 3, procedural knowledge about the skills and methods of religious studies scholars, analytical skills, right? Those are the things that we want to obtain. This is what we want to convey to future citizens. And that is different from the kind of religious literacy that you need. And then I wanted to sort of direct your attention to this issue of method and theory, because I think it is very helpful for everybody to look into this. And I'm very sorry that we didn't know about this kind. I think it was a big mistake. We should apologize in public for it. It's method and theory in the study of religion, issue number 34 from 2022. And in the first opening article by Znanstveno-raziskovalno, he says this about literacy, which I also just want to read from his abstract. He says, moreover, especially the advocacy of basic literacy, that is of literacy, literally speaking, is historically entangled with Christian theologies and other ideologies, a history giving rise to what Graf once called the literacy myth, linking increased literacy to social improvements or progress. Thus, finally, the particular resonance of religious literacy in religious studies and related academic circles may reflect the inescapable historical character of our particular academic enterprise as ex-theological, as you said. So this is also something, it is a little bit close to what exactly was done in confessional circles. To educate people into that confession and thinking that this was how it is. And I mean, take from Germany, we know we had confessional religious education. We've had it in Denmark, we've had it elsewhere. Why? Because the state wanted to produce new, good Protestant or whatever Christian citizens. Because if you are not a good Christian, you could not be a good citizen. Because being a good Christian and a good citizen meant that you had the right moral, right? So that's why soldiers also had to be baptized and confirmed, because if not, you could not trust that they would fight for the king or for the state. So this is what you produce. Now it has changed, and now we want to produce in many schools religious, literate pupils who are able of handling a globalized situation. The pluralist situation, right? But there is a little bit of the same in it, right? That this is what we hope for. And we don't have the same means. So this is also something I think that Jenny said quite correctly. To believe that religious literacy can solve, then we comes into this, but it should solve all problems, I think is totally ridiculous. First of all, religion does not play that role. I mean, it is blowing the role of religion in political conflict out of proportions. Religion plays a role some places, others not, but it doesn't play the role that calls for religious literacy to sort of get rid of it. But it's useful for scholars of religion and for teachers when they want to promote a subject to say we have something that can help. But it cannot help in 1 hour a week. And I don't even believe that it can help 3 hours a week. But I think that we should use it, Alice, and this is where I don't disagree with you. It should be there as a timetable school subject, but we cannot put a lot of hope into it. It would be a lie. We have to fight what we are fighting in other ways. We have to fight radicalization in other ways than by way of into religious education. It's not going to suffice. And I also really think that it's not only blowing the role of religion in political and social, whatever cultural conflicts out of proportion. It's also blowing our own sort of potential out of proportion. And we have to be a little humble. But that humility does not mean that we should not do anything. We have a role to play. And we cannot but do that to the best of our ability. That's it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree that it's not going to solve world's big problems like that. But I think that having courses from the study of religions in teacher educations in different systems, it also gives confidence to teachers, not having always to avoid the religion question. Because as it is also in Sweden and so on, and in other countries, that always avoiding something instead of taking the discussion, you know. That things happen and people blame religion or use religion or see things on television, social media, and then just kind of putting it away or behind, you know, instead of, okay, I know something about religion, so I can talk a bit about this. So I think it's giving confidence to teachers. And they can not only talk about one religion, they can take the discussion on, you know, swimming lessons for Muslim girls who veil, you know. It's not, you know, how do we discuss this? Or how do we discuss the rise of anti-Semitism in Swedish school since the war in Gaza? You know, it's not just putting everything, avoiding everything is not a very good solution. I think having that confidence that, yes, I do know something, so I can talk about this. That's one part of it, but it's also having this knowledge that, you know, in terms of the wider culture, you know, reading, literature and all that, but it's kind of on different levels, this. So, but I think the confidence thing is something that teachers need today.
But not only for teachers.
No, of course not. But no, of course not. But I think in terms of what the university can provide for teachers in this one.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm completely in agreement with you, but it's much more than that because we educate civil servants, lawyers, bureaucrats, everybody, medical doctors.
Yeah.
My final remark on that, and then I will shut up, that is that I have been doing giving lectures all over Denmark for 20 years. It was the best time of my life as an academic. Not to give lectures in academic settings, but going out, giving lectures about religion communication, knowledge, etc. From a study of religion's perspective, to police officers. The whole police system I've been through, from the head people to the ground people to everyone. Foreign ministry, hospitals, nurses, doctors, lawyers, prison personnel, all of that, they need to know something about this, and we can provide the kind of knowledge that will not sort of save their day, but it will make them a little bit more comfortable when they have Muslim inmates or whatever. And so I think that there is a reason for this, and this is also part of religious literacy. It's not just something that happens in school.
No.
It happens also elsewhere.
Yeah, I just wanted to take up this, what you said about the self-confidence of the teachers, because I think this is really important, because we know if we have the feeling there's something we don't really know something about and we want to cover it, we pretend to know. Yeah, and I think this is what often happens. You don't really know about religious things, and are they allowed to eat this and that and so on. And then to kind of make this explicit, make this a topic, and then also work together with the students, the teacher trainees, to say, okay, where do we get the knowledge from? What kind of questions do we need to ask? Can I just say yes, I don't know, and then we will ask, or we will see, or we will meet somebody, or whatever. So just kind of take this pressure away that there is a subject matter that we should know much more about, and we pretend to, and then we take up a lot of stereotypes and so on. And I think for myself, because we are talking about the usefulness of this and maybe the social effects of this kind of knowledge, for me it's actually just one example of practicing critical thinking. So it's with respect to religion, but I think we do the same for many other subjects. And this is why I also thought that was so good that you addressed this intersectional approach. It's one element in something bigger that is a huge, that is the task for education also in our times to do. And then in some contexts, religion and the knowledge about religion and the discourse about religion, it can be relevant. In other contexts, it's not. It's maybe the production of discourse about gender and sexuality or whatever. But I think the kind of grasp we have on it and the methodology and the kinds of questions we ask, these are really relevant. And this is also something that I think we can communicate. So, yeah.
More questions, comments? You all agree with us?
We are contemplating process.
Was it too much? In a short time from our side? I don't know, there were many things, yeah. We all agree, and Tim explicitly mentioned this and so on, that it's of course a precondition for all what we are discussing is the precondition are good study of religion university programs for first scholars of religion, then teachers, and then everything else. And and you are sitting in a country where this does not exist. Our colleagues from Faculty of Theology, having very rich tradition, and then in last years you added the signifier religiologia. It's how we translate study of religions or religious studies. But your approaches differ from what we are talking here, right? Even when you lecture not theology but different subject, right? They do differ. They're not study of religion in such a way as European Association for Study of Religion is promoting, and we have this. What is this? Paragraph 1 of the International Association for Christian Religion, and so on, isn't it? So it's again we were using strong word of open signifier. In today's world, it seems like everything is an open signifier, and we know this within study of religion for at least 25 years. We all know the guys who are so critical about the term religion, not only world religion paradigm, but the next step is that to abolish the term itself, because it's so contested and it's so open to different, and so on and so on. And so in this sense, if we go this way, then at the end we can't talk anymore. It's this post-structural deconstructivist approach, right? So in this sense, I of course completely share Giovanni's criticism. It's obvious, right? But at the same time, I'm very much agreeing with Jenny, right? We need some terms to communicate among us, each other, and then among general public, and then among towards politicians, and so on and so on. And isn't this the kind of natural part of human culture, that we are always producing new terms, and then we are fighting around terms, and so on and so on and so on. So in this sense, I think that we might be giving up too soon. I think that this hard work, tiny little details, instead of religious literacy, we talk about religion literacy and so on, and general public might, take this as an empirical proof how useless we are, and do some proper work instead of stealing the money of the public and so on. But I think that this is exactly what we have to do. This is our job and our task first to produce this concept and really to fine-tune them into the right direction, and then to fight for them also in public sometimes if we are asked to, and so on. So in this sense, yeah, I share criticism, but I'm very much in favor of this as an additional term which can help us in our endeavors. I don't know. Please, Patrick.
It's kind of a question. Suppose I'm a school director and the government asked all the schools to work on religious literacy in a broad sense. And then I can, as a school director, I can say, oh, fine, we have history, we have geography, we have language, so we can do it. We can work on religious literacy. What would be your most strong argument to convince me to organize a separate course on religious studies-based religious education? Because, for instance, in Belgium, the government has only the authority to make some learning goals, and then it's up to the schools, because there's freedom of education in the institution. It's up to the schools. How do they get there? If you do it by history and geography, or you do it by... for instance, we have learning goals about citizenship. Some schools, they have a separate school subject on citizenship, but other schools decide to obtain the learning goals in history. So what would be your argument?
So I would say less important than having an own subject would be having a well-trained teacher. So less important than having a separate subject would be to have a well-trained teacher. So if you have a well-trained teacher who can do this in some other framework, I would say this may be fine, it may be a place to promote it, but I would nevertheless maybe suggest to make some room for it. It could be a subject, I don't know, maybe not from year 1 to the very last, but whenever you think it's useful, to say it's such a delicate topic in our society that it maybe deserves the place, to give it some space, some extra space, not only when it comes up coincidentally in history or in some other subject, but that you say maybe we put it into the focus because it is important, but then we could negotiate if something else is more important or not.
No, I think I would actually say that this, I would totally agree, it's about having a well-trained teacher. That, yes, maybe this year, for the full year, citizenship education will be taught by someone who has teacher training from the study of religion. So this year, citizenship education is getting people to be more religious literate or whatever, but someone with a good training, actually. It is a type of citizenship education. You could argue that.
I mean, it has been a discussion for many, many years whether we should actually deconstruct study of religions departments, because at the end of the day it may be seen as sort of theological. Well argued by critical theory, Fitzgerald and others, and I disagree, and I've written that earlier also. Even though I think we have spent more than 100 years in Europe building up specific departments where we have specialized in studying religion from a historical and comparative perspective. Self-critical, I think we are sufficiently self-critical to have those departments, and I think we have accumulated knowledge, skills, etc. that are valuable and that are necessary if you want to have a timetable, compulsory, separate school subject. Because we need to have those teachers in place who can do that. And I can see the point, therefore, of deconstruction, yes, and having multidisciplinary, cross-disciplinary, and also the idea about dimensional religious education that comes into history, etc. Of course, that's a way to deconstruct.
Yeah, but the school director would say, I'm in favor of the religious studies department, but in my school, we organize it with history, geography.
Yeah,
we
but
don't have a separate
you have to tell him that that is not good enough, because he would never allow for somebody who had no education in geography or in mathematics or in biology to come and teach those school subjects. He would never ask Tim Jensen to come and teach biology. Then why on earth should he have somebody from history or from a literary study teaching about religion? This is exactly the point.
If they are
And this
well
is,
educated, if they are,
but in practice,
if
exactly, but in practice, the practice shows, the empirical practice shows that it does not happen in practice. This is the example of Slovenia, and Renaud is raising his hand because it is an example of France, even older and even more convincing. But go on, Renaud. Sorry, didn't want to put my words into your mouth.
I don't want to. Yeah, the best example you can say to your director, go see what's up in France, because
You can also come to Slovenia,
because we have to, maybe you know the Delovne report saying, yeah, you have to teach about religion in school, and President Delovne wanted to have a specific subject in school, 1 hour or 2 hours, specifically designed for that. And of course, because we are great at avoiding problems, we'll say, no, we are doing history, geography, literature, in language. And in the end, it's like Wanda said, the problem is teacher training,
Yes.
because most teachers are afraid of doing it, and they are being more and more and more afraid. And we go back to the problem of religious literacy, because if you say, in French, I prefer to use illiteracy, because in French, illetrisme, it's more about you can't understand what you read. So, religious illiteracy is you have a religious reference, but you don't understand what it's about. So you have a problem of teacher training, and some teachers always avoid what they say, and because they are afraid. So a specific subject has the advantage of we have someone specifically trained, and he has the confidence to speak about it. Because if you ask, if you ask the average history teacher, maybe if he has taken the subject during his initial training, if he has taken something like history of religion in university, maybe he will do something, but if he didn't, he won't do something. So in the end, it's very, very difficult to have something. And the second problem is the syllabus. So the policy, state policy about religion, because we have a Ministry of Education saying, yeah, study of religion is very important. People ask to know something about religion, and when we have the syllabi, we don't have it. We can do many, many things without speaking religion. For instance, I was teaching in high school from some time, and we see the Italian painting in the Renaissance without religion. Because you see what they do, naturalistic, technique, and so on, but no, it's not Jesus, it's not Zeus. No religion. They don't paint about religion.
Yeah, I think that this model could only work if the essential part of this so-called dimensional model, which we introduced from France in the very early 90s when Slovenia became independent, could only work if then all the teachers of those other subjects, all other subjects, history, language, literature, all of them would compulsorily be forced to, it should be in their study programs to listen also the experts of study of religion. Then it would work. In practice, it's just the opposite. They do not hear 1 single hour, not a week, in a lifetime. They don't have, So then that's why it does not work in practice, at least in France and in Slovenia, I don't know.
So, yes, I think in most contexts I'd argue for an individual subject, but if I take the realities as they are, I could well imagine something like, if we take teacher training, establishing maybe some kind of certificate, as we have in other areas of knowledge, that we say, we have this offered by the study of religion, and it's something that teachers can take teachers who teach other subjects, and it involves maybe, I don't know, I can imagine from the program that we have some introductory module that is 1 year, and then we have something more that might be adjusted to school context in this way, that they take that, and then they have some very basic equipment to do something like that. They wouldn't be kind of fully trained teachers in the study of religion, but I think they would be more what you would need in order to make this in a kind of responsible way as a, if you don't have the opportunity of introducing a subject as a kind of school.
Exactly, but this kind of modules should be substantial. It should not, it's not 1 30 hours course or something like that. It should be more.
No, it's
serious.
Yeah,
you said
something
1 year
serious,
or something.
Yeah, 1.5 years, something like
something
this.
like
at
that.
least,
Then it might work.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I was not going to respond to the school there, but I think something else is that there is a growing bulk of research on what is called controversial issues in school, and you find that in many countries and so on. The Council of Europe has given recommendations in terms of controversial issues. If you look into these controversial issues in different school subjects, because of depending on what country we are in, it's different school subjects that are being researched. I mean, you would find issues on religion in these controversial, even if it's social science, if it's history, and so on. And I think that is quite obvious when you look at the research now, from kind of outside looking on different parts of the research, that what teachers actually do in many situations is avoidance, or that they are either avoiding or kind of ignoring that there is a controversial issue. And I think the study of religions could kind of, because what the recommendations is that you should teach about this or bring up these controversial issues, but I should actually say that if you have no training in the study of religions, some of these topics is not very good to bring up. Then it's better to ignore and avoid, which is then for the pupils' part of it. It's not a good thing. And this is, if you look at it's also in natural sciences and so on. I mean, having the discussion we had on religion and science, as we did earlier.
I have a futuristic question, if I may.
Futuristic question sounds great.
Sorry, thank you. So, what would you think, what do you imagine, where do you imagine, not just Europe, but that this issue is going to be in 10 years' time? Will we, and the study of religion, etc., and religious literacy, the religion literacy move forward, or it will, like, where do you see, how do you see that these questions or issues are going to progress?
Controversial issue first. Tim and then.
Well, yesterday Alice said something to me about an article I once wrote, or maybe two. I've started to copy-paste myself because I'm tired of doing anything else. So it's called Uphill, Uphill, Uphill. Study religions-based religion education, or study religion. It's uphill all over the world. The academic study of religion that I try to promote via the IHR, it's uphill all over the world. It's not easy. And it's also scholars who do not want it. They want emancipation, they want activism, they want anything else, right? But so I think it's difficult, and I think it's extremely difficult based on my own experience in Denmark. I mean, I, together with several colleagues, we have been public intellectuals. We have really tried. We have lectured for, as I mentioned, everybody, not God, but everybody. We have given interviews, we have been in television, we have done everything to promote a study of religion's approach to public understanding of religion, to discourses on religion. But at the end of the day, we play zero role. When I look at who the journalists today contact, it's rarely there is one scholar of religion they go to nowadays. But for the rest, no. They go to theologians or primarily to ministers in the church, because they know about religion. And it's really depressing. And once again, I have to sort of take things down. Once in the Netherlands, I preached the blessings of a study of religions-based religion education with regard to knowledge about Islam. And the good professor Schurt, Königsfeld, said to me, Tim, I need to see your proof that this works, because when I look at the Danish debate and Danish social political situation, I see no indications that none of these people ever had one lecture in religious education or religion education, because they are totally ignorant, full of stereotypes and prejudice. And I think that matters, because that is a hindrance for them to accept that it is good to have a study of religions in universities that is strong, and a study of religions-based religion education. There are so many powerful actors in this. Look at Europe. We have the European Association. I think it has been a great success. Starting in 2000, with nobody, now it has some 20-something. It's really big and great. But when it comes to the European politicians, what are they supporting? They are supporting projects like the ones that were mentioned yesterday. 1 million, right? Or today, I can't remember when it was. They are not supporting the European Association for the Study of Religion, but the European Academy of Religion, which tried to sort of jeopardize everything that the study of religions had tried to obtain over 30 years. So it's that kind of study of religion that is saving the world. They want something that can save the world or serve their purposes when it comes to sort of secularization or whatever they call it. That's what they want. They want to control the Muslims. And if you can come up with a program that can control, marginalize or exile Muslims from Europe, then you'll get support. That's what they're interested in right now. And then still promoting Christianity, because the Christian heritage is so important. We cannot be good, decent human beings if we are not Christians, one way or the other. So no, I think that it's uphill.
Yes, thank you for this question. I think when I started with this topic almost 20 years ago, almost 25 years ago, I thought, oh, I would like to have some better education about religion for my children. And now they are in the gymnasium, and I can only think of what if I should go to court against it, or if I should just watch what happens there, and so on. So I was maybe very optimistic then that something would change, and would change soon. And then I have this impression nothing much has changed. But then again, if I think twice, the study of religion at that time had maybe in Germany some 20 professors, now it has some 40 professors, so it kind of doubled its size in this term. And we've had some developments in the different countries in religious education. Norway has been in the European Court of Human Rights and has changed its model. In Germany, it's quite interesting. We still have, in most of the federal states, we have the separative model, but we have more and more children choosing the alternative, so-called alternative subjects. So they are not, they are allowed to opt out of religious education and take a subject that is called ethics, and that includes the study of religion. And it used to be a tiny minority who did this, and nowadays it's being more and more. So, and we have this discussion now in Germany, if not a subject like this should be compulsory for everybody. So I think maybe, yes, it's going much slower than I would have wished, but there is some progress, but I wouldn't see it as kind of steady progress or some kind of evolution also, as we see in politics and so on. It's a to and fro. Yeah, we have some success, and then we really think that it can't be true what is happening. So I don't really dare to say anything in this respect. Maybe in 20 years' time, or 10 years' time or so, the study of religion doesn't exist anymore. I don't know. This is not what I want to say here, that this is what I expect. But still, this is something that, in the way, in the line you say it, and it's uphill, it's not just something that kind of happens by itself, but we really have to work on this.
I'm not that pessimistic.
I hope for a
No,
positive
exactly. I think we're going kind of uphill right now. Uphill. No, I'm not worried that the school subject, religion education in Sweden, will be taken away. There is no way. There is no discussion on that. It will stay. It will be there in 20 years. It will look different. The curricula will be rewritten every 10 years, that is all, as it always is. There will be, I mean, there are around 15 universities now in Sweden teaching the study of religions. I mean, that will change, but that depends on teacher education very much, because there is, so maybe it will be 7, but then the departments will be bigger, maybe it will be in the different, so I'm not, it's not going to disappear. There will be a need for scholars of religion. In terms of the public debate, I think that's also different. We have quite a few scholars of religion today who are very much public intellectuals, who, I mean, the past 5 years, the big newspapers, there has been quite a bit of historians of religion who take a big part. But that is also because there are historians of religion who publish kind of popular books on religion, not only academic articles that are maybe that are of course difficult to read. So I think it's also a matter of people taking that responsibility in that. So I think in that way it has been interesting and positive development in the Swedish case. Then of course that is also that people are, within the study of religions looking at new areas. I mean, there is a big discussion now in, Sweden as a secular country, what is taking the place instead of institutionalized religions and so on. Where forests and nature and so on, that Swedes are using a religious language when they go out in the forest and so on. So it's scholars of religion who kind of analyze this type of change in how people talk about religion and so on. So I'm not that worried.
I would say, thank God for Sweden.
We have other problems, I'm sure.
But in this business, and I've been in this business for over 25 years now. Hopefully, quick time flies. And yeah, I haven't noticed, any positive changes really. And we've been with some colleagues working hard to propose such changes and so on. And the question was, in 10 years' time, from this perspective today, not only for Slovenia, but for most other countries in the region, I'm not so optimistic. They mentioned Trump as being, it's not an idea, he's been closing departments while we are speaking, We have our neighbor, eastern neighbor, the big strong guy as well. He has been closing departments for a few years now. So it's this anti-intellectual swing is really, really hard, right? So yeah, we are sitting in a country where there is no study of religion at universities, there is no subject about religion and so on. It's the same for most of, for all of former Yugoslavian countries coming out of former Yugoslavia and so on. In Eastern Europe, the situation is not that So, and I don't see forces, which would change this in the next 10 years' time. I also share Tim's frustration, and we discussed this many times over the last years, and I'll just add that anytime when important social international documents are drafted, right? They would never invite Tim Jensen, despite of his being a very smart, very vocal, important guy in study of religions, or any of your colleagues, right? And it's not changing. They would invite first members of religious communities, the big, important, traditional ones, and then they would invite lawyers, always lawyers. We witnessed that many, many times, right? And if they would invite scholars of religion, it would be from that part you mentioned before, European academic religion, or things like that. And I do not see this changing in any way. It's also a frustration from my side, being a member of these precious associations, because we are kind of impotent in this way. We can't seem to change this. European Association or International Association for the History of Religions, we don't seem to have to find the tools to fight this. So in this sense, I have to admit that I'm remaining a pessimist, but in a Gramscian way. Antonio Gramsci, we are here next to, it's almost in Italy, but in Slovenia. From a Gramscian way, I'm just finishing this sentence, and I'm just struggling to combine this pessimism with the optimism of the will, as he said, and that's why we keep on fighting.
I saw his grave a week ago. He's in the non-Catholic churchyard in Rome.
And he died in fascist prison, by the way.
No, but coming back, when I say popular, there is of course some hope in it also. So there are some positive things, as Wayne also says. And I mean, Kana is sitting right here, Kana Kilson. She's educated at the University of Denmark, and she is specialized in religious education in primary school, where it is small city confessional. It's really uphill there to change things. But ever so slowly, because of her position in a university college, not in a university, but a university college where we educate teachers for primary school. We educate teachers for upper secondary at the universities, but here they teach or educate them. She's influencing things. And by way of being very energetic, writing articles, giving lectures, she does have some say in some service now. And that is a study of religion's promotion in regard to another kind of religion education. But it takes a lot of energy. So it doesn't come free. You have to do something about it, right? And it takes, you also get into trouble with this. It's hard, it's tough work. But ever so slowly, a few things change.
Yeah, it's. Go on.
Yeah, it'll be a short question. And referring a little bit more on Slovenia, although not just Slovenia, I think we have, with these small steps, of course training teacher is one way, but I think that it will be even more important to change curricula. And it can be curricula of history, geography, hopefully also some sort of religious education. After all, yes, there is this elective subject, which is kind of non-confessional religious education, but maybe there's a possibility to make it obligatory. I don't know. But yes, what I actually wanted to say is about textbooks. I think making or sometimes influencing the authors of textbooks to include more religion is also one way to do it. And I'm really sorry that my colleague, Matea Rejek, is not here because she authored a textbook for history of 20th century. And sometimes, for example, when we are talking about something and criticizing and so on, it happens that we are also wrong. Like in this case, I know that she once heard, there's nothing about women in the history textbook. It's not true. And even the colleagues heard that. So,
yeah. Let me repeat what I mentioned yesterday. At the moment, practically all curricula of all primary and secondary school subjects are open. Literally the first action of the Slovenian Association for the Study of Religion was to write to ministry and to that public institution we have for education to let them know that there is study of religion in Slovenia, that we are here and that we are willing to help. And we addressed all the expert curricula committees for each subject that they should consult us, that we are willing to contribute, so they could then also maybe write better textbooks and so on and so on. And we did not receive a single answer, except from sociology on the high school, because our colleagues are sitting there in that group. But this is first thing, yeah. And the second one is, it's been a lovely symposium we're having, and I'm enjoying it tremendously. Thank you guys all for this. But on the other hand, we made sure that practically all teachers of sociology and many other teachers have received the invitation for this roundtable now, and many other people as well, and so on. And we all see how many of them are here. Teachers, authors of textbooks, the people who are experts, administrators, and so on. There is one precious exception, but it's because he's my personal friend, not that much because he's an employee of the ministry and so on. So this contributes to my pessimism. I'm sorry about that. Miran, did you want to?
Yeah, I want to add something to your pessimism. Do you think about how artificial intelligence will play into all this? Because even if you think that ChatGPT is rubbish or not very good, I think that in a few years we will have like synthetic Tinyans and you will always be able to speak directly to synthetic Tinyans or anyone, So then where are we then with our knowledge? Also, what is the meaning of factual knowledge then for pupils? Because factual knowledge seems less valuable when you always have Tinyans with you, And also, on an optimistic point, maybe teachers will have more self-confidence if they always have Team Janssen with them in their pockets. So how do you feel about that?
I feel great. Could I say something about writing textbooks? I mean, this is something I think particular, I don't know really about Sweden, but in Denmark it has been long-standing tradition to have scholars of religion from universities write textbooks for upper secondary school. Because there has been a very close relationship between upper secondary school subject, religion education, and university departments, because we educated the teachers. So it has been a lot of people who have been in study of religion at university producing lots of textbooks, but very few for the elementary school, very few. And there is where something kind of knows something about, because the problem is with the elementary school. Because this is still the key instrument for the state to socialize future citizens, right? Or to brainwash. This is the place where they brainwash future citizens to become, today, not good Christians, but sort of Protestant, non-Christian Christians. Something like that. And there, it's very difficult to get into producing textbooks. You may be able to manage it and a few others, but so that you're quite right, it's important. As for curricular committees, I have been part of that twice, but never when it came to elementary school. Always only upper secondary. Because it's not that important with upper secondary. The state has already formed and educated and socialized people when they get out there. It's all about the children.
We're avoiding the controversial subject of artificial intelligence.
No, I can say something. No, I think, I mean, in terms of ChatGPT and so on,
it is rubbish, yeah.
It proves
So
that
far.
you need subject knowledge, really, because I mean, it's not until you have subject knowledge that you can understand what is rubbish and what is not rubbish. I use it quite a lot in teacher training, that they have to use ChatGPT. But of course, they have to ask ChatGPT questions, and then they have to criticize it from the course literature and so on. Because it's not until you do read the scholarly based literature that you can understand if it's rubbish or not. I mean, so it's very, I mean, it does say a lot of good things and so on. You can ask it a lot of interesting things, but you cannot evaluate it until you have the scholarly perspective of it. I mean, I find it quite fun and so on. But of course, there are challenges. There's challenges in schools and so on. And also at the university level, we are going very much having, it will be the pen and the pencil and the paper, because we cannot use computers in that way in terms of examination and so. But I think it really makes the case for the academic, not only study of religions, of course, but the disciplines that you need, the disciplinary knowledge to be able to evaluate.
I think it is a dramatic change we've been witnessing, and of course this question goes into the right direction. But I'm not that pessimistic in this regard as a critical scholar of religion. Things will change drastically, but it will change faster and more in order for teachers of mathematics, languages, and many other subjects than for the scholars of religion. If the religion education courses are structured on the basis of study of religion, I think they are very much needed, and the next generations of ChatGPT and all other will have troubles with that more than with mathematics and languages and so on and so on. Because it is, human culture is extremely complex and complicated and so on and so on. And exactly, and that's why we need humanities. It's not science in the technical, natural sciences way, right? And this is what we criticize often. You cannot even agree on the religion as a main concept. What on earth, how even create simple models and equations and stuff like that. It's because it's too complicated. And that's why I think, as long as human beings will be here, I don't know how long this is going to be, and whether artificial intelligence will change this dramatically in next decades or centuries, I don't know. But as long as human beings are here, we will need such knowledge, whether we call it religion or not, but such knowledge. So in this sense, I think, we still have a lot of work to do. Another question is if the societies will pay us to do this work. Here is my pessimism more visible, but any other questions, Karna? You don't want?
That was assumed.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, all set.
Okay, at the back.
Hello. Hello to everybody. I'm from Ministry of Education. So I will try to put something on optimistic side. Ministry is aware of many letters that came, as you mentioned. It's not the only one. It was standing and waiting for someone to write an answer, but all calls have been put on the table of a responsible institute, that is Institute of Education, and the director Reutz announced that after this session, where they will present 200 new curricular documents, will be the second phase, and they will start it during this year. So that means that they should gather all the themes that had not been called, and religious is one of the area that should be also gathered together and renew the curricula. That's one way for sure that it is on plan, so in 2026. And then came who will educate the educators and who will write the textbooks. So additional information on that next week. The Chamber of Economy organized like this event regarding new textbooks. So publishers are aware of opportunities. So the process are on many levels present, and I believe there will be space also for this important issue. that let's not forget that it, as you mentioned, Minister Koper, in those time, it was quite a strong, ambitious idea how to approach from this area, but it seems like, I don't know, they went to sleep or something. Additional things happened in society. As I listen colleagues who works on Center for Social Work, they are calling that there is a lack of that kind of knowledge. So when you are in everyday life to work with migrants, and you have to understand what's going on, and they do not understand what is happening. So we are not talking just about the education or public schools, but we are talking about also about the life learning process, and the opportunities are there also. Thank you very much.
Since I see some surprised looks here, let me answer that I am, not only me, we are aware of these processes going on. We hope that maybe this second phase will be different. In the first phase was as I described before. But I hope I'm wrong and my feelings are wrong, and I'll be happy to admit that very loudly to everybody. But I can't help not to, again and again be under the impression. With Renaud, we had the discussion yesterday. We shared our experiences, We both had in last decades some very pleasant and fruitful meetings at our ministries, and they always agreed with our arguments, and they always emphasized how important this knowledge is in practice and so on. And then at the end, somehow in France, they have very similar experiences with writing proposals, initiatives, and so on. And somehow, Renaud also mentioned, you just don't get the answer. No answer at all, it's quiet. So, I hope I will be proven wrong and I can become more optimistic in this next phase. But so far, I'm a bit skeptical. Any other comments, questions, remarks? We've been doing well. An hour and 45. We just warmed up a bit. No? Sure? Okay. Then thank you all very much, above all our speakers here, our hosts in this wonderful place and so on. Thank you for this.